Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. I thought today I would share with you how to make a flower component to add to a pendant where you can slip it in anywhere. And I'll grab a pendant here in a minute and show you what I mean. So I've cut myself, let's see, look, just shy over 7 inches. 7 inches is good. And I am going to mark the middle with my Sharpie. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Your comments and feedback are really appreciated. So here's my 3.5 inch mark. So let's see how we're lining up here. That's 3.5, great. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my needle nose and I'm going to bend this wire in half. Then, and by the way, I don't remember if I mentioned I'm using a 20 gauge square dead soft copper wire. So then I'm deciding in how big I want my flower, and that's going to be determined on the plier that I use. So I'm going to be using these flat nose. They're long flat nose by Xuron. And that's going to determine how long I want the petal. So I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. You want to make sure, so if you're just starting out with square, it's got 4 sides and there's a definitive edge. Sometimes it's hard to see, but when you put your pliers in, you don't have to shove them all the way back into the loop because you could by accident hit the arc. So just rest it gently in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this wire up and over. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to gently scratch it. Watch that you keep your wire parallel. And sometimes that's hard to do with square. So I'm just going to kind of flatten it out. And then I'm going to just put my pliers in here again, rest them gently in the wire, hold firmly, and up and over. So you should have like a W. And I'm just going to continue that. I'm right dominant, so I tend to like to work on the right side. So I'm just going to flip it up and over. Same thing over here, up and over. I'm just wrapping it around my plier. I like to work in a certain direction. Just straightening things up. Just making some little adjustments. I want to keep these really in line. Okay, let's keep going. Up and over. Now, if you find that your wire starts to turn when you're looking at it on a parallel, and if you see it start to turn off a little bit, just come back in with your plier and just go in the opposite direction that it's turning to keep your flat side up. These are really good little tips that will be helpful for you. Up and over. You always want to keep looking at it, turning it around. Okay. I always do the opposite side so that I maintain evenness and levelness. You don't want it to be level across. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want one more. Okay. So now I'm going to start shaping this. And it doesn't matter the direction that you're going in. It's really up to you. And I'm just going to start curving them into each other. I'm going to turn it around. You can also use this, y'all, to be on the back of your stone or the front of your stone if you want a decorative design. And I'm just doing a little bit of each side and turning it around so that my pressure is equal until I come to center. So we got this pretty little flower. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the legs together, and I'm just going to squeeze with my fingers for right now, just to see how it's lining up. If you notice, I pulled up a little bit there so that it's even. You can use this in so many things. You can make a pendant out of this. Also, if you had enough wire, you could make a really cute ring. We're going to be closing in those petals in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to be going from opposite sides. So I'm just going to start squeezing very slowly and gently in here. Then I'm going to come over here, slowly and gently here. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And then we're going to be squeezing them in even more. You need a good flat nose plier. You don't really want to use, in my opinion, a needle nose on this. Now I'm just going to keep going around in different directions. Don't worry about your wires crossing over. No biggie. And I'm just going to keep squeezing in. And I'm squeezing in down near the bottom. That one's pretty good. So now I'm going to start squeezing in at the top just a little bit. You're going to see how each time we do this, it's changing the shape a little bit and giving more dimension to it. So that's what we have so far. I'm going to pull this one up a little. Now, you can go a lot of places with this. You can actually put a bead, a little tiny 2 or 3 millimeter bead right here in the middle. As I mentioned, this can be a component to add to so many things. It's amazing, truly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the petals up. So I'm just going to start with one right here on the tip, okay? I'm going to hold very firmly, and right on the tip, I'm going to bend that petal up. And I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. I know my hand is in the way, but I have to, in order to do this, hold very firmly. Just bending that petal up. If it spreads apart, just squeeze it back in. And now we're giving even more dimension. I'm going to open this up a little bit so I have some working room. So now I'm going to really start, now that I've got my first bend on that petal, I'm going to really start pushing that tip in. So I'm anchoring my pliers in such a way that I'm coming right off that tip and just bending it down a little bit more. So let's see what we got. So we've got this darling little cup flower here. See the back? And this little cup. At this point, you could literally use this as a facet set. So you could use this to set a stone. Let me see if I can find one that would fit in here. That's probably too big. Maybe not. This is faceted onyx. Let's cut one off here and see what we got. Ooh. They've got an interesting cut on them. But just to give you an example, that's a little big for that, but it could work. It could actually really work. You could string it through if you wanted. Let me see if I can find one that's a little bit better. Need one this might be a little small, but it would still work. Yeah, this is actually better. I think this is, let me tell you. This is 5 millimeters. 5 mil. Ooh, I'm dropping everything today. Yeah. So that's a 5 millimeter round Amazonite. So you could put this in here and bring your flower petals in to encompass it and set it in a cab. You could set it inside of the bale of a cab. I'll show you that in a minute. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring these legs together and open them up. This would be a really cute pendant. I'm telling you, you can do so much with this. It's just mind-blowing. So you could make this into a really, really cute pendant. Oh my gosh, set it in your bale. You just have a lot of options here. So if you guys want to see me do that, I can certainly do that. Let me grab a pendant. So I did a tutorial on this a couple of days ago, and this is an example of what I'm talking about here, that once we encompass the stone, we could set this as a component in our piece. So I'll show you that, even though it's probably not going to go in this because I don't like the color. Hold on, I got to get my puppy. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean by setting this as a component. You know, you can make a pendant, you can make earrings, you could definitely make a ring out of this. Do you see how that would sit on your finger, and then you would bring your wire around your ring dowel? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily use some scrap wire, and I'm just going to tie these legs together because I'm doing this completely impromptu, and I'm not sure. Oops, that's my sterling. I'm looking through my little envelopes that I keep all my scrap wire in. I'm not sure how I want to tie that off yet, so I'm just going to use some scrap. I might make it permanent. So I need to support these two legs here so that I can start fitting my stone in there. So I've got a 26 gauge wire here. Actually, this feels like 24. It's definitely 24, not 26. And I'm just going to tie these off temporarily until I decide what I actually want to do with it, as I'm going to set it in my cab here. So now I need to bring these petals up more. So I'm going to come down further and I'm going to start to bend them straighter up, go on the opposing side, coming down further inside that little petal and bending it up even more. You could just go so many places with this, you guys. Now you see how we've got, I really need, I think, a little bit of a bigger stone, but you know what? I can definitely still do it on this. It's just gonna cover it a lot. Let me see what I got. So this is just a little bit bigger. So what we can do is we can take some weaving wire here. And as I mentioned, this is all impromptu. I want to tie this down even more. Let me get my little bead out of there. I got stuff all over. Okay. Okay. So what we can do is we can get some weaving wire. Let me get some, let's see, 26. So I'm just going to use some scrap wire here, and I'm going to feed the wire through the bead. This is a pretty little lepidolite. I think that's how you say it, lepidolite. I don't know, you guys correct me. I mean, hello. I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm just going to try to go through the center here first and see what I think about where I want to tie this bead off. And I want the so what I'm going to do, I know it's really fiddly. I'm going to pull it out of there. I'm going to bring it over the sides, figure out where it wants to line up. And I'm going to feed it underneath where I've got all this gap space here. And tie this bead. Oh, I didn't want, did I want to go around that? Yeah, I did. Sorry, guys. I need to get you to go down, down, down. Okay, now that I got my first wrap on there, it's not going to be so fiddly. And then I'm going to come up through one more time. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, see where she wants to tie off the best. Looks like that's where she wants to be. Or does she want to be over here? Nope. That looks a little bit better. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to feed it through up underneath. and pull her down. So we got this pretty little lepidolite, I think that's how you say it, in this little flower. This is used scrap wire, so it's hardened on me. And it's going in the wrong direction. Okay, I need to use my pliers. When all else fails, you know what? That's not on there tight enough. I just saw too much looseness in this wire. I'm gonna come around the other side, because you're not gonna see this. All we're doing is tying this bead down. Okay. All right, I'm gonna snap this wire off. Now you could leave it, gang, if you wanted to use it to connect as you're connecting it to your piece, if you know what I mean. So let me just make sure everything's centered up here. But you definitely could leave it. I'm gonna go ahead for right now and just snap it off. Let me close up my petals first, because I don't have a lot of, I can't even think of the word. So I'm gonna go in opposite directions, and I'm gonna start pushing my petals into my bead. Actually, these wires are coming in really handy for holding on to the back of it. So I would recommend you keep them for right now. I told you this is impromptu. I just thought this morning, let's play. I need to turn this one up a little bit, just making adjustments and squeezing that in. This has actually worked out to be a good size bead. It was a 6 millimeter. Just squeezing it in. So those little petals, you could also do this with a round faceted. Okay, so here's what we got. Isn't that cute? So now I'm going to snap this wire off. Well, I can get a hold of it. And it's just a wiggle jiggle. Make sure that's really tight in there. Okay, so now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, how do I want to change my bail? So you see what I mean? How you can set this, you can plant it in so many things. Now, if you were just starting your bail, you would incorporate these 2 wires into the bail, okay? But we're gonna add it as a component. I'm seeing a couple of things here. Just wanna press that down a little bit more. So I'm gonna straighten this out. Now I'm gonna unravel this temporary wire that I used to bind. Where is it coming from? Okay. And I'm going to look at how I want to set it in there. Here's our back. There's our little front. So I'm already seeing that I could set this in here. This This piece, you guys, by the way, is not designed for this. I just want you to see what you can do. Let me see if I can find another cab. Okay, this isn't exactly designed for it either, but the concept again is if you've completed a piece and you have this gap space that you want to fill in and you had already completed your bail, then you can add a component. You can make it smaller than this. We just started off with that. So that's the concept. So here's a better example if you wanted to incorporate it into your bail. Do you see how the wires are sitting in the middle there? So what I would do is I would weave the bottom first on this. I would do a 2-wire weave, and I've got a tutorial on that. And then I would start incorporating this into my bail. So I've got 2 wires on the outside, on each side, and I've got the 2 wires in the middle. Does that make sense? I hope so. But really the purpose is to create a component that you can add. So I'm going to use half round, and we're going to either wrap it in this. We're not going to wrap it in this one because the tutorial I did on this stone moves. So just to show you how I would incorporate it in that, I'm going to get some half round wire, and I am going to use, I'm looking at my spools of wire, y'all. I'm going to use a 20 gauge round, and I don't know how much I'm going to wrap. I'm going to determine that as I go. You're really getting an insight on my creative process. So I want to make sure that these wires are on their flat side. This one is not. And if you remembered when we were making our little, oh my God, I get such a brain fart when it comes to making these little feet. And then someone always posts, they're called, but I don't know why that is. If you remember when we started, I said sometimes your wire can turn on you. So I want to keep that flat side up. So I'm rolling it in the opposite direction that it was turning out. And now I'm just going to get my half round. And I'm going to make a little hook. I'm going to come from the back. And I'm going to bind the legs together. So that's 3 full wraps. I'm going to slide that down and see what I think before I decide to slide it up. I'm going to straighten my wire here. So let's see. If I was going to use this piece to set this, then I know that I need to curve these wires back to get it in the gap. So I am going to go around 1 more rotation. I'm going to do 4. And I'm going to cut it off in the back. And then when you're cinching off your half round, you want to anchor off that entire wire and roll it in. So the wire will stretch. So you never want to cut it all the way flush to your core wire or it will stick out. Now I'm looking at that wire on the back here, deciding whether or not that could be helpful to me to set this. And I want to tighten up those pedals again because all that movement I was doing, open them up just a little bit, just a few of them. I just saw some. Then there. So now I'm just going to gently fold this back first before I do any sharp bends on it to see how, and let me take this off. It's a distraction. This cord off. Okay, to see how it's going to set in there. So I know that I need a much stronger bend on that. So I am definitely going to cut this tail wire off. If you notice, I just left myself a little baby tail because I'm going to roll off of that wire to cinch it in. So you notice how I'm rolling my pliers? It will literally stretch it. Okay, so now I'm going to center this up. And I'm going to bend it down even more. Then I'm going to slip it in my gap. So this again is all about adding a component. So this is where it can get a little fiddly, but you could have a piece like this, you guys. It's really whatever you visualize. And I'm going to come from the back and really push that through more. As I mentioned, this piece isn't really designed for this because see how it's hitting my wires? So I'm going to go back to my original concept and have it set flush on the stone. Then I'm going to start pulling my wires more in the back as I'm holding this firmly. Let's make sure I'm center here. See, I've already got all this other stuff on here, but I would have added this in earlier and I would have likely incorporated it into the bail. But I wanted to show you, if you wanted to add a component, I'm just going to pull really tight. I'm going to fold this over and incorporate it into my design. Then I'm going to come around the front . I don't like the way that, I'm very picky. Okay. And I may leave this. And then I'm going to start to feed these wires through the additional gap here. See that gap? So I'm going to pre-shape my wire so that I'm giving it memory and telling it where I want it to go. My hand's in the way, in the back there. And you want to watch your center while you're doing this. So you never want to completely cinch off until you can center your piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do this side. This is so impromptu, you guys. I just was thinking about it. I said, let's make a flower component and see what we can do with it. So I'm feeding that through. Oops. Did this one go down or in? It went down. So I need to bring it back out. I want them to go in the same gap space. And I'm holding very firmly on my flower. Okay, this is where we're going to start centering up. So I've got my little component there. And I'm just going to start feeding that wire through a little bit at a time, straightening out the leg. Let's turn it around, see what we've got going here. That's pretty dead center. But do you see what I mean? It's a totally different concept. You could literally have a piece like this. I would do it on something different, but I just wanted you to get the feel of how you can add components, make little darling components, add them. So now I'm going to really start cinching in. I'm coming off the back of the wire. I'm anchoring off of it. See that? Did you see that little bit of movement in there? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my nylon jaw pliers and I'm going to clean this wire up before I continue with it. So let's see. That's centering up really good. Isn't that cute? I just think it's so cute. I'm going to do some tightening here. That little bead is in there like crazy. But it's just amazing. It's just a beautiful art. I just love the ancient art of wire. It's so fantastic. It's just amazing what we create with our imagination, right? It's a gift. Being in this human form is such a gift. So I'm looking at the gap space down here. Let me get my little tool. See that gap space in there? And I'm going to bring that wire through again. And this is snug as a bug as a rug. I mean, I'm telling you, it's so snug in there because we used a 20 gauge square. So as before, I'm going to do the same thing. And this time, I don't have to worry about the center because it's now completely centered. But the way I process is I like to do a little bit of each side at a time. Everybody's different. Now I'm going to come around the back and straighten up that leg and gently start rocking it. I'm going to straighten up this leg. And before I do anything else, I want to turn around and see how they're lining up. This one is curving in too much. I'm trying to see what it overlapped on. It overlapped on itself, so I'm going to pull the wire down away. I need to get it behind it. It's in front of it. Oops. Let's see what we got going here. Oh, I went through the wrong place. So that's good that that happened. I missed it. Went through the wrong gap space, so I'm going to back out. I crossed over my wire. I'm going to slide this up a little bit. There we go. You see that? It's always good that these things happen because it happens to all of us. It shows you how we make corrections. Everybody's got their own style. Now it's lining up. Now I can rock that wire in place. That's kind of cute. I may leave that, you know, have some shiny, and I just noticed I did it over here. Dang. Okay, well, let's back out. Let's correct it. So I'm pushing that wire through to back it out. I did it on both sides. Okay, she's getting nice and hard, this wire. I need to get her above. So this one up here has to swing up a little bit. So I have room to feed this wire. Can you see all the little corrections that I'm making there? Now, Okay, I know what I need to do. So I'm going to come around the back. This wire right here in the shape of this rose quartz heart is a little higher, and that's why I don't have that room. So I'm just going to use my very handy tool here, and I'm going to push it down a little bit. I'm rocking down on that wire and creating gap space. These are techniques are everything, y'all. I know I say that in every single tutorial because if there was a truth, that's the truth. And we got rain coming, and I'm getting big shadows in my window, so I'm having a hard time seeing where I'm going here. I want to get up underneath it. I don't want to ride on top of it. So I'm going to come around the back, and I'm going to pull it down. And then I'm going to start rocking it through. So I went over the top. So now I'm going to use my pliers to rock that through. See how I made that correction? And it worked out great. You just got to try. If you're just starting out, I do not recommend you practice on sterling until you really become proficient at this. It's very expensive. It can run up to $50 an ounce based on the gauge of the wire. So now I'm just straightening these out because I'm going to cut them off and tuck them in. But isn't that great? I just wanted to give you guys something fun this morning. I'm cutting very close, very, very, very close. Getting down there as deeply as I can. See those little tiny stubbies sticking out there? And then I'm going to get my needle nose and I'm going to tuck them in and under. So you can't feel a thing. And there we have it. We have set our darling little flower beaded component into an already finished cab. Isn't that cute? I hope you like that, everybody. Please give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. I know it was pretty quick, but I just was thinking about making a very quick tutorial, and I thought, why not? Let's do it. So really think about what you want to do and just play. I thank you all for being a part of this wonderful, magical, ancient art of wire. It predates the Phoenicians by 5,000 years, and it's just a magical art. I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.